Today on Live Daily News, the carnival is coming back to the Sunset Mall. A GoFundMe has been set up for the victim in the fatal crash on 2288, and some area athletes signed to play with colleges at the next level. But we'll get into that, but first, here's a word from Jim Bass Ford.
Right now at Jim Bass, scan our QR code and find great deals on cars and trucks. Right now, you can get a brand new 2024 Ford Ranger, just $31,777.
You can only get deals like this at Jim Bass Ford, Houston, Hart and Arden Road, or 24/7 at bassbunch.com, or you can scan this QR code.
It's QR code, boss.
That's what I said, QR code or QR code.
Welcome back, everybody. James Bellini here with Bob Bluthart from Fort Concho.
Howdy and Happy New Year.
Oh, howdy, happy New Year to you too.
Well, it's a little later, but I don't think I've seen you since 2024.
I don't think so either.
So, Happy New Year to all.
It's a busy end of the year. So.
That's it.
We got a couple things to talk about today.
Yeah, well, first let's talk about what's happening in a couple of days. As many people know, we have a living history program. These are men and women who suit up in very uncomfortable clothing, particularly the way the weather is going to be this weekend. It's going to be warm, and portray soldiers and other folks of the frontier. Well, this weekend we're having our annual School of the Soldier.
Okay.
Now, this is not a regular school. It's basically a living history training program for people who want to portray the life and times of the soldiers who were at Fort Concho in the 1870s and 1880s. Now, Sarah Team, who's our ACE educator and chief of our living history program, is going to be organizing a camp of instruction, so to speak, for about 10 to 15 men. Women are welcome, but not too many women want to suit up on the wool uniforms
Right.
and sweat like pigs.
It is West Texas.
But you'll eat well. I mean, it's a pretty good eating program. We probably feed them better than the Frontier Army did. Now, what can people see and when? Well, they can probably get the best view of what's going on Saturday during our regular guest hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The activity will be on the parade ground and in and around barracks number 5, between about 9 and 5. Sometimes they'll be outside drilling, sometimes they may be shooting the weapons, sometimes they'll be inside taking class. So pretty much between 9 and 5.
All right.
Now, if someone says, boy, that sounds like something I want to do, we'd be happy to have you consider us, and you can call Sarah at 657-4443, and if she's got some extra uniform, she can take care of you. But if you just want to come out and watch, well, not a problem. Just come out and see the fun.
What were the conditions like back then for soldiers? Just kind of get into it a little bit.
It was not a great life, but it was a good alternative. Think for a moment, it's the mid-1870s, and we're talking just males here. That's just the way the Army was. If you didn't have a job, what were your options? None.
Probably not.
None. I mean, it was starve.
There's no content creators going on back then.
Definitely not. There was no unemployment insurance. There was no welfare. There was no job training. It was a harsh time by our standards. Now, by their standards, they thought they were doing just fine. If you worked, someone paid you, and you bought food and you ate. If you didn't, well, that was your fault. Now, there were institutions set up for those who were mentally or physically unable to work, but they weren't, great by our standards. Right. But if you were an able-bodied person of adult age, and you weren't working, the Victorian era pretty much thought you were shiftless and lazy, and they weren't about to give you any money to go take care of yourself. So the Army was a very attractive alternative, and particularly when the economy tanked, as it did in the mid-1870s, and again in the 1890s, and again in the 1930s, the Army became the employer of first resort, as opposed to prosperous times where folks joined the Army. Well, I guess they couldn't find a job anyplace else. All things considered, if the average daily wage was 50 cents a day, thereabouts, and the Army was paying you $13 a month, free clothing, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's free. Free food, it didn't taste great, but it was free. And your
beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, right? and your shelter and transportation, medical care, and if you lived long enough, a small pension. It was a pretty sweet deal back in the 1870s and 1880s. And as we'll talk about in a minute, for black men, it was an extraordinary deal because society wasn't too kind to black citizens in those days. And it was probably the only place, the only employer where a black guy and a white guy get paid the same amount of money for doing the same work. So, but this one is open to anyone, and they'll be out there all weekend. But yeah, Saturday, 9 to 5, come on out and watch the fun.
All right. Well, let's get into the Buffalo Soldiers real quick.
Well, that's February. February is traditionally African American History Month across the nation, and one of the not so secret things anymore, since we've been promoting it for ages, is Fort Concho is staffed 50% by black soldiers. Okay. You wouldn't know that from many of the old time movies, but we were a post between 1869 and 1885 that was 50% black troops. And we had the first black graduate of the academy at West Point, Henry O. Flipper. He was only here a year, but he was here.
So the street over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was Henry O. Flipper, and why does he have a street named after him? Well, he was a rather accomplished fellow, and his time at Fort Concho was brief, but we wanted to note that, and I think we did that project, my goodness, about 25 years ago. So on Sunday, February 23, from about 2 to 3:30, we will have a program, a series of programs talking about the Buffalo Soldiers, their history. We have a few hopeful surprises. We're working on a couple of mini programs that talk about an archaeology project that relates to Buffalo Soldiers, and perhaps a special guest coming up from Houston to talk about a state Buffalo Soldier Association. The core program will be by Shirley Spears, who is the founder and manager of the Buffalo Soldier Memorial that's across the street from the fort, and she'll have some updates on that, as well as a great visit she made recently to a ceremony which righted a wrong of over 100 years ago, where members of the 24th Infantry, that was a black unit, during World War I, there was an unfortunate riot, and the soldiers were blamed, and unjustly, and they had a ceremony that righted the records and restored these men's good name. So she'll talk all about that. And we'll have snacks and fellowship, as they say.
All right. Well, anything else going on?
We're just enjoying a good year so far. We will have our usual programming ramping up in the spring in March and April. We'll be planning Frontier Day soon on April 26th, speaker series on all the Wednesdays in April. And just watch the website at fortconcho.com, or just give us a call and we'll let you know what's happening.
All right. Well, so Saturday from 9 to 5, going out to the fort to see the...
This Saturday, 9 to 5, see the boys in blue marching around. And then on Sunday the 23rd, Buffalo Soldier Day, in the commissary on the far northeast corner of the post.
All right. Well, Bob, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
All right. Back to you. Up first, the GoFundMe has been set up to assist the family of a man who was killed in a serious crash. The campaign has been set up for Valicia Pelton and her 3 children after her husband was killed in the crash on FM 2288 earlier this week. You can find the GoFundMe on SanJoLive.com. Wright's Amusement Carnival is getting ready to open at the Sunset Mall. The carnival will be there from today until February 16th. Unlimited ride passes are $35, or ride tickets will cost you $1, but each ride will cost you at least 3 tickets. They'll be open Monday through Thursday from 4 to 11, Friday from 4 to midnight, and on the weekends from noon to midnight. The Angelo State Cheer Team is hosting spring clinics for youth and aspiring cheerleaders. There will be 4 clinics altogether, with 2 in February, 1 in March, and 1 in April. Registration is required, and you can do that at angelo.edu, then clicking on Life on Campus, Get Involved, ASU Cheer and Mascot, and then clicking the Cheer Prep Clinics link on the page. And speaking of ASU, we had some area students signed to play at the next level. I'll redo that, hang on. Speaking of ASU, we had some area student athletes signed to play at the next level, which we'll get into right after a word from Carpet Tech.
When I was at work and my daughter called and said, "Mom, there's water in the basement."
There was quite a bit of water in our carpet.
There's water coming out your front door.
And I saw water coming out of the garage closet.
I called Carpet Tech.
I really felt like I was being treated professionally and personally and friendly.
They came in, they said, "Don't worry about this, we're gonna get it taken care of."
I think what matters the most to me is that I feel comfortable and that I can trust them.
We had some area high school athletes signed to play at the next level recently. Sonora's golfer Dylan Ford signed to play golf at Lubbock Christian University, and out at Wall, Emmett Marlott signed to play football at Hardin-Simmons University. He was one of Wall's offensive linemen this past year. Also, defensive end Brylan White signed to play at ASU, as did Briggs Jones. Also, Jim Ned's Carter Lang signed to play for the Rams as well. And we'll be right back with weather after a quick word from Jay Chandler and Westbrook Plumbing.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
Do you have a plumbing emergency, burst pipe, major leak, or any other urgent plumbing issue? Westbrook Plumbing provides 24/7 services to San Angelo and the surrounding area. All of Westbrook Plumbing's plumbers are licensed, insured, and trained to provide San Angelo with the best service. Give them a call at 325-304-4209. All right, the heat tops out at 90 in the coming days, but it cools off shortly after. Right now it's 82 degrees outside with a low of 60 with increasing clouds tonight. Tomorrow the high is 85 before cooling down to 58, and then on Friday it gets up to 86 and the low that night will be around 61. And we'll be right back, but first here's a word from Concho's Diamonds and Coins.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Concho's Diamonds and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Concho's Diamonds and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Concho stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Concho's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
Thank you for watching the Live Daily News Show, the only locally owned news show in the Concho Valley. Go like us on Facebook, X, and other social media platforms, and download the San Angelo Live mobile app to stay up to date with news from in and around the Concho Valley. Thanks again, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.